Hi, I'm Dr. Angel Bice, and I work for the Charleston Animal Society. And today we're going to talk about ear mites in particular. So this is something that I am on top of for sure. Other people might miss it, but ear mites drive me a little bit crazy. So I'm going to start this one off with a video just to kind of show you what the animal is going through. This video does have volume, so take the time now to go ahead and turn your volume on your computer if you have it, because this makes a huge difference in understanding what the animal is going through. So go ahead and turn the volume on your computer up so that you can hear it, and I will go to the video so that it can play. So this is what the animals are hearing when the ear mites are in their ears 24 hours a day. That's just something to keep in mind, and I like to show this video to our staff a couple of times a year just to remind them to stay on it, especially when cat season's coming around the corner. So, what is the scientific name of the species that affects dogs and cats? So here we have the Otodectes, cynotis. So this is our ear mite. So if you were to look under the microscope, and all that it takes is just an ear swab. We put a drop of mineral oil on the slide and then put our contents from the ear swab onto it, kind of crush up and spread it around. Look under the microscope and usually you'll see them right away. So the species affected, it's been reported in dogs, cats, foxes, ferrets. Most commonly we see it in cats. You hear a lot of people saying they think that dogs have ear mites because they're scratching their ears. It's less common in dogs. It can happen to occur in dogs, but most commonly it's seen in cats. There have been a couple of case reports with people. One in particular was a doctor who placed ear mites in his ear on purpose to see what would happen, and he ended up going and getting treated because it was driving him crazy. That was the one who infected himself on purpose. The ear mites are not going to reproduce in the ears of people because that's not their host, but they will live in there for their lifespan, which can be a couple of weeks. So definitely something to be cautious of. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. Not common, but it is very contagious from cats to cats and cats to dogs. The clinical signs, frequently you'll see the animal shaking the head, scratching at the ears, inflammation in the canals. You'll see an accumulation of dark brown material that we frequently refer to as coffee ground appearance. So it's really dark, dry, coffee ground looking. So very heavy infestations, the mites may leave the ear canal and cause infestations around the head. So they may have crust on the backs of their ears, on their necks, that kind of thing. And if it's a really bad infection, it can cause head tilt. Surprisingly, a number of kittens and cats will not show any clinical signs that they have a really bad ear mite infection until you look into the ears and you can see how bad it's going on. So this is that dry coffee ground, dark brown appearance of the material that you might see inside of the ears. So diagnosis. For a complete diagnosis, microscopic evaluation of the debris. So cats may have what appears to be significant lesions with large amounts of dark debris, and even you'll see some digestive dried blood under the microscope, but you might only see a few mites present. So just definitely look over the entire thing. Other cats may have very clean ears and have lots of mites without as much debris. And some other cats may have thousands of mites in the ear and yet exhibit few, if any, outward symptoms or signs. The ears may be filled with a dry and waxy substance that occurs as sheets, and you'll see a lot of those. And you might not see any ear mites, but you will see eggs occasionally. And so we'll look at that and see how large these eggs can be. So this is a slide looking under the microscope. So we're only looking at this under the 4X, which is the lowest power. So we're not having to go to a real high power, just the lowest one that you would look at fecals under. And so these are some ear mites here in the middle. And then down here at the bottom in the right corner is an ear mite egg. So the eggs are pretty large. So that's just something to keep in mind. You're not looking for a teeny tiny egg. They're pretty large eggs usually. And sometimes that might be all that you find so that you know there is an ear mite infection going on. So at our shelter, we don't require that every cat that has the dry coffee ground appearance have a microscopic evaluation of their ears. We mark them as a high suspect and we just go ahead and treat them. So we don't require the microscopic evaluation of every cat or kitten. Instead, treatment's indicated anytime that they see the really dark brown dry debris that's present. So microscopic evaluation is indicated if it's not the typical presentation. So if it has purulent or pus looking like discharge, there's not very much debris, so they don't really think that it might be ear mites. If they're shaking or scratching their ears but there's no debris seen, in those cases usually we'll take a sample and we'll go ahead and look for the ear mites. But we have such a high number of cats with ear mites that we usually just go ahead and treat for it, and that usually resolves it. So the life cycle of the ear mite. And this is the same life cycle for lice and scabies and a lot of other parasites. So the complete egg-to-egg cycle takes 18 to 21 days. So each stage takes a minimum of 3 to 5 days of maturation to move on to the next stage. So they lay the eggs, and then about 5 days they have the nymphs hatch, which molt into the next stage in another 4 to 5 days, and before they become adults that can reproduce again. So it's important to know the life cycle, how long it takes, so that we know how long we need to treat for. So on average, it's about 3 weeks for the life cycle. It can be up to 4 weeks. So complete treatment we do over a 3-week period. Very contagious. So if you have one cat or kitten that you notice ear mites, definitely treat every animal that's in the litter. Assume that they have been exposed and also are a carrier of the ear mites. So we use Pet Point here, so that's why it says complete and Pet Point as a procedure. So the way that we have our setup is that you schedule an ear mite cleaning and treatment. That's done, and it automatically schedules 2 additional treatments. And those treatments are done 1 week apart. So it's a total of 3 treatments over a 3-week period. That way we're killing all the adults. It doesn't necessarily kill the eggs, but we're catching the eggs when they hatch before they're adults that can reproduce. That way we're taking out everything before the life cycle gets to the point that it can reproduce ever. So this is a case, and this is why it frustrates me so much, is we had a kitten, had 2 kittens with severe ear mites with 6 foster rechecks in Pet Point, and nobody noticed the ear mites until the surgery exam. So these kittens had been in for a foster for about 6 weeks, and the ear mites had been missed the whole time, when it just takes such a simple, quick glance to look inside the ears. They may not have started out this severe, but I wish that we would have caught them as soon as possible. So there are lots of treatments that are FDA approved that can be purchased. So we here use an off-label treatment. The off-label treatment saves us a ton of money, and it works really well. So what we use is propylene glycol and ivermectin, and they're mixed in a 1-to-1 mixture. So it's half propylene glycol and half ivermectin. So we clean the ears really well, and then we apply 1 drop of the ear mite solution, and we massage it into the ear. So we were sending cats home that had been treated. We were using Revolution, which works very well as Advantage Multi. But we do the treatment, and we'd send home a waiver saying they had ear mites and we had treated, but they would go to their local veterinarian who would see the debris, and then they would come back and say that they needed to be treated for ear mites because they still see the debris. So we found that if we send home treatment and let them know that the treatment needs to continue for a few more weeks to be complete, that they take that as that they're doing something to treatment, and they understand why there's still some signs of the infection there. Even though the Revolution lasts for a month and will continue to treat that infection over the month, they don't feel like, they feel like the treatment was done and that it's still there. So we found that by sending the eardrops home and having them apply them once a week for the remainder 2 weeks really helps them to be able to say that they still have treatment and that the treatment's not over yet. So this is just a very affordable way of doing the treatment. So we have these teeny tiny little Boston red round bottles, and on them we had ordered some labels, and they just say ivermectin, propylene glycol 1:1, so they know what's in the bottle if they were to have lost the bottle, the prescription label bottle. So we put these inside of the prescription labeled bottle, and on the prescription label we have all the things that you'd have for a prescription, since it is a medication. But we also include on there that this is off-label use. So they're aware that this is not an FDA-approved medication. So labels versus off-label. So drugs are produced by a specific company and tested in order to get label approval. So that would be Advantage and Revolution. There's a few other products on the market as well for ear mites. So any of those, like Mite, any of those are labeled use. So off-label use of a drug that is not specifically tested and marketed for that disease is being used, and that's what we're using with the injectable ivermectin, but mixing it in to propylene glycol to make it an ear drop. So it's important that we let the people know that they are using a product that's off-label use. So here's a link if you'd like to write this down. This brings you to the video that we watched in the very beginning so that you have the audio to hear the ear mites. And again, I use this for our staff a couple of times a year, and it really made a difference on how they got diligent about paying attention to ear mites, just hearing the noises that the cats are having to hear on a regular basis. So go ahead and write down this YouTube link so that you can share it with your staff. Again, if you have any questions, my email is abice@charlestonanimalsociety.org. Thank you.